I want to talk a little bit about equanimity, and then we'll do a short meditation. I want to talk a little bit about the fourth friend for meditators, which is equanimity. And oftentimes when the immeasurables are taught, they start with equanimity, which I think is quite hard. I think the idea of being equanimous is something we don't understand very well. We have very two-dimensional relationship to it. And also, it seems a little cold and distant. When you think about equanimity, it's like no emotion, no ups and downs, no connection, sort of remote, like a granite wall or something is equanimous. And what it really means is balance. There's this classical Zen story, and I don't really remember exactly how it goes, but, there's a secret Zen master in a village and nobody really recognizes him, but, something good happens to him and, the neighbors all say, "Oh, how wonderful this happened to you." And he said, "Well, we'll see." And then that good thing turns into a bad thing, and that bad thing turns into a good thing. And he never really comes down on good or bad. And I think that's part of what equanimity is recognizing that we're not really sure how all this is going to turn out. And we care deeply about suffering. We care deeply about war and starvation and illness and just the unnecessary suffering. So it means we do care deeply about it, but we don't let ourselves fall into an identification with negativity, because that can't possibly help. It takes us out of the picture. We're no longer able to be present and respond in a clear, wise, and compassionate way. So that over-emotionalism, that empathy that dives into the suffering and identifies with suffering creates burnout. And that burnout means that we're not clear, we're not present. And when we're not clear and present and wise, then we do things for mixed motive. And the best thing doesn't always happen. So we want to see equanimity as the foundation that allows us to care in very profound and subtle ways without identifying in a negative way with that suffering. And in a way, what that means is that we have to care more about autonomy, freedom, our own and other people's, and free will. And this becomes very subtle, especially when we're looking at situations where there's, oppression and harm being done by, perpetrators against another. But I read this, it was a very interesting graphic book. It's about this big. So it was done by the founder of Shambhala Publications, Sam Birchholz. So Sam Birchholz he's been a Buddhist practitioner since the 70s and founded Shambhala Publications. And I'm sure all of us have read books that were published by them. I mean, he's done an incredible service. But he's had this interesting occurrence in his life where he's physically died a couple times, on the operating table or something, where he's actually died. And in one of these times, he had this experience where, the way he described it, and he created this whole graphic novel, where this bodhisattva brought him through different realms of hell. and to show him what hell was. And he partnered with this amazing contemporary Tibetan artist, and they have this like anyway, it's I forget what it's called, but if you ever get a chance to read this book, it's amazing. But I had a really profound realization from that, which has to do with equanimity, because this bodhisattva kind of flew Sam in his in between Bardo state into these different realms, and he saw, hell realms and hungry ghost realms and all these different realms and people there, and the bodhisattva was explaining what that person had done in their life that landed them in that hell realm. But the bodhisattva didn't do anything to like grab these people and lift them out of hell. And part of what I like, there was a certain moment when I was looking through this and something hit me very powerfully, because at least in this cosmology, which I feel is very relevant to us, we have free will. We have choice over our experience. We can't control the outside of our experience. We can't control what happens. And, there were great Tibetan masters who were tortured and put in work camps. And there's, suffering in a lot of places around the world right now. People don't have choice over that. But we have that human choice over how we respond. And so for those beings in these hell realms, according to the bodhisattvas, they always have the choice, even though it's very difficult when you're in these burning hells and this is happening and that's happening. It's pretty horrific. You have the choice to lift yourself up. And so even a Buddha can't do that for you. And so when we take that in very deeply, we can remain more equanimous around people in our lives who are very victimized by their suffering. And they may have had a really hard time, and they may still be having a hard time. They may be in situations that are truly unbearable and unconscionable and cruel. And we can care deeply about that. But there's only a certain extent that we can alleviate another's suffering. And, physically, practically, we can do everything that we can to end cruelty and bring people into safe environments, and save our planet from toxicity and pollution. I think all of that is important. But to keep us from falling into that sense of over-identification, it's important to maintain the sense of profound acceptance, and then strive to respond in the most enlightened and compassionate way that we can. So that takes us actually to the very end of our session. And I'd like to thank you all for being here. And wonderful to be with all of you. And we can just close with half a minute of reflection and gratitude. We've come so far in this 90 minutes. And I hope that these Meditator four friends will stay with you. And may all of our practice and work and effort be of benefit to all beings. So thank you so much. Really wonderful to be with you. And stay well.